Hello, I'm Bain from Christian Voice New Zealand. You know, we often hear the word society, but do people really understand what society is? What is the expectation and just what is it that society demands back? So I hope you'll join me on this journey as we look at society's expectations as we move towards both harmony and responsibility in our world as we look at today's culture through the lens of the Bible. Hey, back soon. Human intelligence has allowed us to shape the planet in ways that go far beyond the survival instincts of the animal kingdom. Unlike animals, humans have created tribes, communities and nations, forming intricate social structures and identities. However, like animals, we also have mechanisms for coexistence and collaboration. But what makes humans unique is the ability to balance individual desires with collective norms. Each person has distinct thoughts and aspirations, but when those individualistic tendencies exist within a group, cooperation becomes essential. Without it, society could regress into the survival of the fittest mindset, resembling the law of the jungle. Logical systems and guidelines are essential for harmonious coexistence. So this discussion explores how well humans collectively care for themselves, their neighbours and their planet. And by the end, we hope that you'll be better understanding societal expectations and how they should be approached. So, first of all, let's look at expectations people have in society. People often expect society to provide things like stability and safety, a functioning legal system, protection of rights and security. Things like opportunities for growth, access to education, care, career development and upward mobility. There's also fairness and equality, social justice, inclusivity and equal treatment. And there's community and belonging, and acceptance, shared traditions and meaningful social connections, and freedom and autonomy, the ability to express oneself and make personal choices without undue restrictions. Now, I think most of us would agree that these 5 expectations are fair and reasonable and are available to us here in our own country. Although we are starting to see quite a bit of grey happening around the fringes of these expectations. But while people themselves have these expectations in our society in return puts an expectation back onto ourselves. Let's just have a look at some of those. Expectations society puts on people in turn expects individuals to follow social norms. That means that we must behave in ways considered acceptable, like being polite, respecting others and adhering to cultural traditions. Contribute to the economy. Work, innovate and support economic stability. What about upholding morality and ethics? In other words, we should act with integrity and responsibility. And there's one to participate in civic duties. In other words, to engage in voting, obey laws and help improve our communities. And the other one is adapt to change, evolve with cultural shifts, technological advancements and global challenges. Now, I hope you'll continue to follow along as we examine how society's expectations, though, are valued. Now, societal expectations are valued based on how well they align with human well-being, fairness and sustainability. The degree to which people accept these expectations depends on cultural heritage, generational shifts and personal beliefs. They can be challenged, though, when they become outdated or unjust, leading to social progress. But valuing societal expectations, they're value-based on how well they contribute to things like human well-being, ensuring stability, health and happiness, fairness, promoting equality and justice, sustainability, protecting the planet and resources for future generations, things like cultural heritage, generational perspectives and personal beliefs all influence whether people accept these expectations. When societal norms become outdated or unjust, they're often challenged, leading to what people call progress. But then, when you have societal expectations, you have to come about administering them. But a fair and effective society manages expectations by encouraging dialogue and inclusivity. Open conversations ensure diverse perspectives are considered, or creating just policies and laws. In other words, governments must design systems that uplift and protect individuals. What about promoting ethical leadership? Leaders should model positive values, not impose rigid control. And then there's the balancing tradition and innovation. Things like honouring history while adapting to the modern world. This ongoing negotiation between individuals and society shapes our collective future. We live in a world of change, though, where former norms have shifted. The definitions of good and evil have evolved, but why is this happening? It's because we are adapting our expectations based on our circumstances. When examining society's rules, we can see why we live in this constantly changing world, as these rules are continually adjusted to align with today's evolving culture. Adapting expectations means that we're listening to diverse voices, and we're encouraging open discourse to ensure expectations reflect all members of society. There's nothing really wrong with that. And then you get the policy and systematic change, where governments, institutions and leaders should be evolving laws and rules and the norms to stay relevant. Education and awareness empower people to understand and engage with changing expectations. So we end up with flexible social norms where we recognise that what's acceptable today might just need adjustment tomorrow. I'm not sure about that. A society that values thoughtful expectations and is willing to evolve responsibility creates a space for growth, fairness and harmony. Well, what do you think? Should expectations be fluid, or do you think some should remain rigid? And then we come down to the Christian perspective, the biblical expectations in society. When we talk about changing and evolving, in Christian teaching, society expectations reflect a higher divine order. Biblical principles emphasize morality, care for others, and accountability to God. However, as society has evolved, some argue that values like compassion and justice, they still align with biblical ideas, while others believe we've drifted further from spiritual principles. So an interesting question, though. Should believers try to bring society back towards biblical values? Or should we just focus on preserving our own personal faith in a changing world? Hey, what do you think? The Apostle Paul described this time that we're living in as a self-centered culture in 2 Timothy, noting humanity's growing focus on personal gain. Yet Christians are continuing to hold on to a hope for a future society led by Jesus Christ with clear rules and unwavering fairness. So in summary, since the dawn of creation, humans have lived under expectations, both societal and spiritual. From Genesis to the teachings of Jesus, we find guidance for building harmonious communities. While the modern world presents challenges, Christians remain expectant of a divine society guided by Christ. Now, by reflecting on these insights, may we strive for a better balance between personal faith and collective responsibility. As always, we love reading your comments. Remember to subscribe. You can do so on YouTube here or on our website. And if you do so, we can deliver our video and much more directly into your inbox. Now, let me just leave you with this quick thought from Proverbs 3. It says, "Trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding, and always submit to Him, and He'll make your path straight." Until next time.